Hello everybody. In today's video, we're going to continue our lessons on Pythagorean's theorem. Today we're going to learn about doing Pythagorean's theorem word problems. So let's take a look at our first problem. So the first thing I see is it says read and understand. Highlight or circle the important keywords. So as we go through here, make sure you highlight, circle, or underline any keywords we see. And obviously we're going to take important care to look at that picture. So the first one says the base of a 10-foot ladder stands 6 feet from a house. How many feet up the side of the house does the ladder reach? So let's go back and look at it one more time. It says the base of a 10-foot ladder. So we told us it's a 10-foot ladder. So I know the ladder is 10 feet. So that would be this side right there. It says it stands 6 feet from the house, meaning if I have a wall, it is 6 feet away. They want to know how many feet up the house it is. So we're trying to find this side here. So when I go ahead and look at this, first thing I see, and I want you to make sure you mark it on your notes as well, is I see my 90-degree angle, meaning 10 must be C, and then 6 feet could be A, and we'll call the other side B. So looking at this, it says, what do we need to know? List the important facts for this problem. Well, what we need to find out is we're trying to find that missing side, B. So what do we need to know? We need to know what the hypotenuse is, and we need to know what one of our legs are. So this is what do we need to know? We would want to just say that C, hypotenuse is 10. We need to know that. And we also want to make sure that we know what A is. We know that would be 6. And it says, what do we want to find out? What are we looking for? We're trying to figure out what B is. We're trying to find B or one of the legs. So now that we know what we're looking for, we could go ahead and solve our problem. So I'm going to scroll down, and it says solve and answer the problem here. So when we did this, we said that, and I'm going to write it over here just so I remember as well. We said C was 10. We said A was 6. We are looking for B. So let's go ahead and plug that into our formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And when I take out the letters and I plug in the numbers, I'm going to get 6 squared plus B squared equals 10 squared. All right, the next step, let's go and simplify anything we can simplify. So I see a bunch of exponents that I can do right now. 6 squared will become 36. B squared, I have to leave alone. I can't do anything with B yet. And 10 squared is 100. So now when I'm looking at this problem, I want to figure out what B is. But the only way to do that is to get it by itself. So we're going to use SAD-MEG in order to cancel out numbers and get our variable by itself. So I put my bar down as I always do. In SAD-MEG, subtraction and addition comes first. So I'm going to subtract 36 from both sides. If I subtract 36 from both sides, I am left with B squared equals 64. And now we're at our final step. And as we learned last class, when we get to this final step, we are trying to do the opposite of whatever is happening to the variable. The variable B is being squared. So what we need to do is the opposite of squaring. Well, the opposite of squaring would be a square root. So I'm going to square root both sides. If we do that, we get left with B equals 8. So that's going to be our answer. But because this was a word problem, what we need to make sure we go down and do, and I'm going to scroll down. If you need a pause to write all this down, make sure you pause it. I'm going to erase this and scroll down. You always need to give your answer in a sentence form. Explain it. And you don't need to explain anything crazy. You literally just need to say what the answer is, how we would talk about it. And if I had to talk about this, I would say that the ladder is 8 feet up the wall. And that's exactly what I'm going to write down. The ladder is 8 feet up the wall. All right, I'm going to go down, make sure you have our answer, and then let's go look at our next problem. All right, so here we have a problem. Once again, we'll read and underline the important words. This is a ladder leaning against a building is used to reach a window. So here in our picture, if you look over here, we can see that there's a ladder. It's leaning up against the building. The building's right here. And then obviously this is the distance between. So we see it leaning up against the building. And says it's used to reach a window 18 feet tall. That means this 18 feet is like how big it is up the wall of the building. All right, that would be our A, one of our legs. It says the bottom of the ladder, so right down there, is 8.75 feet from the building. So the distance like from where the building is to where the end of the ladder is 8.75 feet. That's going to be another leg. That's B. They want to know how long is the ladder. This ladder is going to be our C, because if you see our 90-degree angle here, straight across from it will always be your hypotenuse, and that means the hypotenuse would be C. And they said at the very end, it says round to the nearest tenth of a foot. So I don't know the answer yet, neither do you, but if they tell you at the very end that you may need a round, make sure you are expecting, hey, at the very end, I may get a decimal, we may have to round it. So make sure you're prepared for that. So let's go ahead and underline the important information. It says that the window is 18 feet above the ground. That's how we found our A. It says the bottom of the ladder is 8.75 feet from the building. And they want to know how long is the ladder. So what do we know? Well, we know that A equals 18. We know that B equals 8.75. What are we looking to find out? We're trying to find our C, or the hypotenuse. So make sure we get that all down. Now let's go solve our problem. And I'm going to just erase all this, but I'm going to keep the A and the B just so I can remember it. So when we solve our problem, we'll first write down our formula. Formula is going to be A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I'll take out the letters and I will plug in the numbers. And we'll have 18 squared plus 8.75 squared equals C squared. Next thing I gotta do is square all the numbers. Let's go and square them. We always try to square and simplify before we solve it. 18 squared is going to be 324 plus, and now I have to do 8.75 squared. So I'm going to pull up my calculator, and I would recommend that you do that as well. And we'll square it. 8.75 times 8.75. And I get an answer that needs to be rounded. I got 76.5625. I'm going to go back and I'm going to round this. They told me to round to the nearest tenth earlier, meaning I only want one number after my decimal. So I'm going to look at the 6, and that's going to tell me that I need to turn that into a 6. So I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to round this to 76.6, or 76 and 6/10. We're using our best math language. And then I'll say it equals C squared. I'll put my bar down. My next step, I have to add these together before I could do anything else. So I'll add them together. 76.6 plus 324. Another problem that I'm punching into my calculator. And I got 400.6 equals C squared. And now we're at our final step. Remember, all we need to do to cancel out that C squared and get rid of that squared is do the square root. So we're going to square root both sides. Before I even type this into my calculator, I know I'm going to get an irrational number, a really long decimal, because 400.6 is not one of our perfect squares. So make sure when you type it in, we remember that we need to round this answer. So I'm going to type it in. I'm going to do the square root. And we end up getting 20 point, and I got 0.14, and it's going to keep going. I got a number like 0.14, and it keeps going. I'm going to go back and round that to the nearest tenth. If I round that to the nearest tenth, if this number is a 1, that tells me to leave this a 0. So really, this is just going to round to 20. So it's just about 20 feet. It's a little bit bigger. So I'm going to say that 20, after I rounded it, is equal to C. So we know that the ladder is a 20-foot ladder. Just a little bit bigger, actually, because we know we rounded, but it's going to be a 20-foot ladder. So let's go down and answer or explain. And state your answer. Let's state it. We would say that the ladder is about, and I'm going to say about because I rounded. I know it's not exactly, but it is about 20 feet long. And that will be the end of our notes. Thank you for watching. After this video, please make sure you go on ahead and work on our next activity. Thank you very much.